just need a bit of tuition on how to get more likes fast on. I mean, what's the technique when you you rub your chest like?
Yeah, if in doubt, take your top off.
Take my top off.
We'd like to see that, wouldn't we?
No, we wouldn't. No. This is a.
Actually,
it's a family show.
Yeah, exactly. I'd just come out of the gym and I got a text from Rachel. Oh, I think it's time for you to start Facebook Live. I've never done one before.
That was your first one?
I got a bit of tutorial, and it was my first ever Facebook Live. There was a lot of in it and stumbling, but actually, yeah, it was a nice sort of welcome, and I hear that it was well received, which was fantastic.
Well, we're delighted to have you as brand ambassador. We were going to introduce you, as you know, last time, and you weren't well, so we're really glad to see you're fit and healthy again, and we'd love to welcome you to the team.
Yeah, and it's fantastic to be part of the Forever family. And I have to say, you know, I love the product, and I get asked to do a lot of things and be a part of stuff. And it's not about the money. It's about, for me, something that I can buy into and be part of and endorse. And I have to say, from Bob, Rachel, the team, and what I've witnessed here today, it is a fantastic company, fantastic brand to be involved with, and ultimately the product is amazing, and I use the product, and I absolutely do love it.
You probably had no choice but to use the product because it was in your house, and Christina probably said you need to take that.
And that's the funny part about this is that Christina would say, well, you should try this, like she does all the time, and she's fantastic at that, and she got me onto it. She got me a couple of bits, and I thought, well, I actually really like this, and then I'd use some of the stuff in the gym, like RG, etc., and I'd be in the gym using it. I was actually, this is pretty good stuff, actually. Why wasn't this around when I was playing? And so I'm really chuffed to bits with it all. So yeah.
Ben's gym, by the way, is about twice the size of my first house. I've never seen so much equipment in one place, and the wall is lined with all of his accolades and jerseys from the various games that you've played in.
You know, it's
a great place.
I converted the garage, and I do like a gym, and I never really had a gym actually when I played. So to put the shirts up and sort of memorabilia that I've sort of collected on the way is something that I didn't do before. It wasn't until actually quite a long time after I retired that, Christina and some of my friends said, you ought to put some of your shirts and medals on the wall. And I said, well, it's kind of in here. And it was like, so I ended up doing it really mainly for my children to see and do. So yeah, I mean, I've got them all up on the wall now and framed, which actually it looks pretty good, and it brings up good memories.
You're too modest sometimes.
Yeah, I think you have to be. I think it's nice to be humble. I've got a medal cabinet that I can point at and show the kids. Rugby, it was such a massive part of my life, and it's a chapter that's done. And although I love talking about it, and I can look back at it, and it was a fantastic time. But it's on to the next thing, and I can't live in that past if you know what I mean. Well, that's a sort of my mindset around it.
You're
really
from a unique family, I think. We were talking the other day. I can't think of any other families actually where you've got two World Cup winners. I think somewhere on there we've got a 1966 football World Cup winner, 2003 Rugby World Cup winner. That's your uncle.
That's my Uncle George. George Cohen.
And so George Cohen played in the last football game that England ever won, I think, because we've been disastrous since 1966. We need to get him back. Is he still able to play?
I think, you know what, someone says you'll ever retire from sport, but if England came calling, you'd always put a pair of boots on. So George, although he walks with a couple of sticks, would be out there having a go.
Well, you built my hopes up last week because Ben took part in the Grenfell Towers charity football game at QPR last weekend with all the celebrities. So I did text him just to see how he'd get on with an odd-shaped ball, but you survived.
It was, yeah, and I have to say that football, although it runs in the family, I never inherited any skills. If you actually watch the game, I was awful. But it's the first thing I'd done for about 3 months because I'd been unwell, and unfortunately I couldn't make the other success day. So I'll tell you a funny story. I'd sat in between Jose Mourinho and some guy called Jamie Duran, or Doran. And I was chatting away to Jamie and for about 10 minutes. And I said, so what do you do then? He goes, well, I'm an actor. Oh, no, that's good then. That's fantastic. And he goes, what films you been in? And he said a couple of films. And he said, 50 Shades of Grey. And I went, Mr. Grey. But it was quite interesting. I said, how awkward were those love scenes? And he goes, incredibly awkward. There's about 20-odd people in this room. His co-star was almost like, they're like brothers and sisters. They've known each other forever. So he said it was really awkward. But it was a very awkward conversation. Obviously, I didn't have a clue who he was. But it was a fantastic day. And actually wanted to be part in that football game for such a tragic event and to raise awareness and money for it, was incredible.
And that's something you do quite a bit of, because you have your own charity called the Stand Up Foundation. Yeah, how did that come to be? Yeah,
there's a lot actually. I suppose we look for inspiration during our careers, and we look up to people, and we all have our own hero, whoever it may be. And my hero was my dad. And although I loved him very much, he was definitely a role model in my life, and actually my best friend. And my dad and I actually started my rugby career together. And I got into rugby by accident, and we started down my junior club, which is called the Old Scouts, on my cusp really for 12, 13, around that age. So we started our rugby journey together, and we were very close family. And sadly, my dad, when I was 21, he got beaten to death protecting someone, and he lost his life. But with that, you can imagine obviously the pain of losing a loved one, not only your dad, your cornerstone of your family, and to see the ripple effects and the effects it has suffering at the hands of other people, and that really did have effect on my family. My mum tried to take her life a couple of times. I went off the rails, as you can imagine. I played for my country. I was established England first team, and I was on top of the world, so to speak. So after my dad died, I obviously went off the rails. But there was a guy called Wayne Smith who coached New Zealand to World Cup glory for the last 2 World Cups. A phenomenal coach, and he had this. We talk about leaders and business owners, and about making a difference. This guy, Wayne, had the ability to make an average player good, a good player great, and a great player an international player is world class. And I was a lost soul. I'd lost my role model. I lost my dad. I lost someone to pick me off the ground and put me back on the tracks. And Wayne noticed this, and he picked me up off the ground and put me back on the tracks and redefined my goals. And if I was to say I was an average player, because I was an average player, I did some very good things. I did some good things great, and the simple things great. I had the ability to obviously be quick, and I was big, but my skill level was very average, and that's something that I had to really work on a lot. But what I did with Wayne's help was redefine my goals and my whole approach to rugby. And it's work ethic, which I've heard here today, about how these little things, the 1%ers, attention to detail, was something that I really had to focus on, because it didn't come easy to me. So I made sure that I was the first in to training and the last out of training. My 2 goals were to be the best player in the world in my position, and to win a World Cup, really purely for my dad. I used that pain and anger. I channeled that in the right way, because but prior to that, it was displaying everywhere, which wasn't good, and I wasn't doing my teammates any justice at all, and letting my team down. So first into training, last out of training, I would work on all areas of my game, my passing off my left and right hand, what my dominant shoulder was into the tackle, how I could equal that up, my fitness, underneath the high ball. So everything really, things that you do under pressure. We had this saying called teacup, and it was think correctly under pressure. And so when you're in the heat of battle, that you could snap to that basic skill, and you know that you could turn that, to use that tool under pressure. And you know, with all that hard work and guidance from Wayne, I got myself back into the England team and on that plane to Australia for the World Cup. And you know, obviously the rest is history. We won the World Cup. We got greeted by about 40,000 people at Heathrow.
Brilliant.
Had tea with the Queen and did the parade through London with 1 million people, and got a speeding ticket on the way home. But that was. It was a great
the Queen
day
not get
around.
you off it or anything? No sway with the Queen after afternoon tea?
No, exactly. That didn't work.
No, okay.
That didn't work at all. But I'll tell you a funny story, actually. My biggest memory of playing for England was it was the first ever Six Nations. It was my third cap for England. And we played Wales. We'd won 3 from 3. I scored a try, which is great. Everything was going great and everything was fine. And I remember going back into the changing room. And when you win a game, there's a lot of alaka-doos around. And there's always some sort of kind of prize winners around. And I remember looking across to Sir Clive Woodward, and he was showing these 2 young lads round. And I remember sitting next to Will Greenwood and debriefing the game. We've got, I think it was Italy next or something like that, and we've got to do this and we've got to do that. And you get this call comes out from the fitness guy, and he says, right, you've got ice baths to go and get ready for. So I started getting changed. The top came off, shorts came off, and I remember, as I stand up for this point.
Don't get them overexcited. Don't be doing it here.
You know, I'm not doing it now, don't worry. But
we don't have enough.
I'm not getting naked.
We don't have enough paramedics ready. Don't be doing it.
I remember getting down to my pants, and these two lads arrive in front of me with me obviously naked, cupping my things. And as I thought, oh no, I've got to meet these 2 young lads naked. I've got to get it over and done with. So as I've stood up, holding things, I'm face to face with a young Prince Harry. So I go, pleased to meet you. And he shook my hand.
And he's been a rebel ever since, has he?
Yeah, never washed his hands since, bless him. I brought the conversation down. I'm really sorry.
Let's drag it back on track. So your Stand Up Foundation is an anti-bullying message.
And that was getting to that, so I got sidetracked.
Okay. I'm glad I got us back on track.
So in 2007, my ex-wife was pregnant with our twins, and they were going to be born smack bang in the middle of the World Cup. And for me, that was an easy decision. I wasn't going to go to the World Cup. I wanted to be home for the birth of my children. And at that particular time, a lady put us in contact with mutual friends of a guy called Laurent from Paris, who set up a fan page on Facebook that was in honor of myself. I have to say that I was taken aback, and he was saying that there's 37,000 people on this fan page, but you need to know one thing. And I said, well, what's that? He goes, well, they're all men. And I went, okay, so what do you mean? He goes, well, you're a gay icon. And I said, well, what the bloody hell is one of those? And but actually, it was very interesting that when I took over this fan page, I shared a story. Yes, I'm straight, but I suffered at the hands of other people. And that was where we shared a story that actually I know that I could make a difference, because their sexual orientation, they got bullied and picked on, and to the point of some people taking their lives. And I was a world champion. I was the best player in the world at that point in my position. And I wanted to be able to make a difference. My kids were just born. I don't know whether they were going to be straight or gay, and frankly, I couldn't really give a shit, and as long as they're happy. And thanks. And I started to bridge that gap between the gay and straight communities. As I said, break down stereotypes, and as a straight man in a very masculine sport, it was very powerful. And in 2011, I set up the Ben Cohen Stand Up Foundation, which was an anti-bullying foundation. But really, at that particular time, it was a crisis moment around the gay issue, about homophobia and transphobia. So people really didn't understand. being gay isn't a choice, and really the whole education purpose that actually around that people needed to learn. We knew that racism 20 years prior to that was where the homophobia and transphobia sort of issue was in comparison. We knew that it would take a generation to drive a cultural change of understanding, to learn. And so I set up the foundation as a social commercial brand. It was in America, it was where my largest fan base it was. And I had set up a clothing range with Nike called Be True. And that comes out around Prides in America, and it raises lots of money that we put back into a coalition group through the foundation, because we give grants out as a foundation, and our mission statement is to raise awareness of what bullying does and support those who do real world work. So we give grants, appearance, or money, appearance, or media. And or one or two or three of those things. So for us, we could be everyone's best friend. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel, and we could give money to people who do amazing work with no money. So with Nike, I set up a coalition group, and that's where a lot of our money goes to people who do real world work. A year later, in 2012, I set up the foundation here with Wicked the musical, and along with Elton John, actually. So it wasn't a social commercial brand here. It works a little bit different, but we raise lots of money. We raise awarenesses of what bullying does, and we support amazing organisations around the country who support people who get bullied and educate people around that. And work with one organisation that works with the bullies, and to understand why they bully, and is it a behaviour that they're passing on, sadly, and 9 times out of 10 that's a behaviour they're passing on from the home, which is very sad. But I love doing it. I love to be able to make a difference. I feel that we as we get older, we have a duty of care to make that next generation a bit of to create a kind of world for that next generation coming through. I mean, that's just my mindset.
It's very much in keeping with our values too. When you see our mission statement, it does say where anybody can, with dignity, be what they want to be. So
yeah,
very much supportive of what you're doing there. We're running out of time, so 2 quick questions. First one, your favourite product?
Favourite product?
Of ours, by the way.
Yeah.
Before you mention anything.
Do you know what? There's a few, but I love the C9. I like the C9 because you get the end result of losing weight and looking good and feeling good, but it educates. And there's so many diets out there you don't get that education part of it. The food, the menus, this is what not to eat, this is what to do. And I think for me that's very important. I think there's too many quick fixes around the diets, things about space out there. The others are, I like the aftershave balm. I even put it on when I don't even have a shave.
Really?
Yeah.
I noticed you haven't had one for a while, actually, in some areas.
Yeah, in some areas. If it gets windy,
a gentleman's pride,
off.
Yeah, like that?
RG, I use RG. I use that every day, and especially being ill.
Yeah.
And sadly, I couldn't obviously attend the last Success event in June, but I got a virus from my kids, and it nearly cost me my life, would you believe? Yeah. And I got sepsis, glandular fever, and pericarditis, which attacks the fluid around the heart, and I got rushed into hospital. So for me, getting back on track, I've actually lent on Bob and Rachel actually quite a bit on vitamins, of knowing what I've got to take, and RG is a big thing for that. Getting back in the gym and slowly, and I've completely changed my diet, which is been very, very important to me, because food, the right food, is been the key to getting me back up to full speed. So love the product. I love your values, Bob. You're a great guy, and it's great to be part of the Forever family.
Well, it's great to have you as part of the team too. Ben Cohen, everybody.
Thank you.